But Mamu, that's another name that we've got to talk about late in the
Right.
season. It's not just this game. He's had other games where, I mentioned the Ofer game on a couple streams ago, but even in that game, he had 11 boards, found a way to contribute, in some form or fashion, even when his shot isn't falling. His shot was falling, though, in this game. It fell in the Detroit game. We might as well
Mhm.
lead into that because of this conversation.
Right.
Um, and I believe he was the leading scorer in that game. But regardless, he has shown a lot of intangible things, um, and and he is the leading scorer. And he's also just shown a lot of skills as well. 7 for 13, 3 for 6 overall, 8 boards once again, 18 points. Just in
Mhm.
this last stretch of the season here, Ethan, he's just done so many good things. And there,
Mhm.
when we talk about CD, I was thinking about this earlier today too, when thinking about Mamu. It's the FIBA in them, if you will, it just oozes on the tape. Do you get what I'm saying?
For sure. That like they have a lot of similarities play style wise. The difference is Mamu's more finesse, whereas I think Sissoko's more physicality and raw athleticism. But I think why Sissoko has a higher upside is he could eventually get there. Like how old is Mamu? 24, 25? Something like that. Maybe he's younger than that, but he's an older young player, is what I'm getting. Is what I'm trying to say. Whereas Sissoko's 19 years old and has already shown flashes of having the same ability as Mamu. But you're right; they have the same. They make the right cut. They're in the right place at the right time. Make the right pass. They don't take contested shots. They move the ball and they take advantageous baskets at the right time. And they also get crazy rebounds and play pretty solid defense. So if Sissoko can somehow take some of the skills that Mamu has kind of learned and blend it with his raw athleticism and talent, the sky's really the limit for that guy.
Yeah, and another thing, just talking about CD and Mamu, even with we could say all this stuff and you just put it perfectly, and I did my best to describe it as well whenever it comes to the things that you see from Mamu and CD. But going back to Mamu specifically, on that Detroit game, last broadcast of the year,
Mhm.
Sean Elliott goes, Mamu's got to come back, right? We got to have a roster spot for Mamu. And when Sean Elliott's saying that, I know he's not the be all end all, Ethan, but at the same time, I think that's telling. And with the way that he's played down the stretch, I would be surprised that he's at least not our third string four next year.
I mean, he has an argument for backup for.
I
Like,
agree with that.
if we don't bring back Chetty Osman, which I don't think that we will, I think he'll kind of make that decision for himself, honestly. Like, if push comes to shove, he'd rather win a championship probably at this stage of his career. No problem with that. Love what he did for us this season. But is he playing over Sissoko next year? I know there's probably a huge number of fans that want Sissoko to play because of his
Right.
upside, right? But if we're being honest with how Pop and the Spurs organization run, if it's between Mamu and CD, it's probably going to be Mamu at least for the start of the year, and give him an opportunity to play himself out of those minutes because he's absolutely earned the right to have rotational minutes with this team. Like, it's shocking with how well he's played this last couple weeks that he was not a rotational piece for us this season.
Yeah, and it's first of all, I totally get what you're saying with the flashes that he's shown over the past couple weeks. But the thing about CD too, and this just gets in. I don't want to jump ahead here because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. We've got a lot on the rundown. But CD's very versatile. Like
Hmm.
CD's a guy who can play 2 through 4. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I'm thinking about if say this is complete just total speculation conversation right now. A lot has to play out before this question even is asked within the
Hmm.
Spurs. But say CD's beating out Malachi in effort reps, just for conversation, right?
Okay.
You could play him over Malachi, and you can play Keldon or CD at the two, whatever you want to do.
Mm.
And you could have, and that depends on what is going to happen with the backups as well. I assume it's Blake Wesley as of right now, but with how good Wemby is, there's a lot more possibilities for the Spurs this year. And even Pop had a quote about that, which we're going to get into here in a little bit. But just for the sake of this conversation, getting back to this, I mean, you could maybe even see that potentially as well, where Mamu and CD play off the bench.